Hello my lovely Splatoon friends! I recently put out a video with my ideas for a full plot and storyline for Splatoon 3's single player campaign. If you haven't seen that one yet, I recommend you go and check it out before you watch this video. Lots of you had some really amazing ideas and discussions with your theories about different characters and things you'd like to see happen in the story. There were so many amazing ideas, I figured it was only right that I share them with the rest of the world. Also, the day this video comes out is my birthday, so feel free to wish me a happy second lockdown birthday in the comments. And take a stab at how old I am, I guess. As usual, I've put together some illustrations to go with them, so off we go. Starting off, Mr. Grizz theories. So, this is a cool one. Mr. Grizz is working with Tartar, the crazy AI designed by humanity that went rogue in Splatoon 2 to wipe out all the oceanic life forms. In my original theory video, I said I think that Mr. Grizz will be the main villain, and that there's a lot of emphasis that's been placed on how much power the golden eggs we've been collecting contain. This person's theory is that Mr. Grizz has been sending the golden eggs to Tartar, and it turns out the Deep Sea Metro was run on the golden eggs we've been collecting for Grizzco. I think that's such a cool idea, that the Octo expansion basically happened directly because of our actions in the game, playing Salmon Run. I really like how that makes everything in the world just feel really connected and grounded. This next lovely commenter is also built off my idea of Mr. Grizz's motivation being to try and bring back the mammalian master race, and also suggests a return to the Nil statue with Tartar. The Nil statue is really great for a lot of reasons. I would love to see a return to it as a location and get a chance to really make the most out of it. It looks like it has some kind of interior space, and who knows what other kinds of crazy machines and compartments could open up or rise out of the sea. It's so mysterious. I definitely want a chance to go and investigate. Mr. Grizz is the professor. A lot of you guys have this theory. There was one professor, one who created Tartar, who also put Judd in his cryo-freeze machine. And maybe he froze himself too. This is definitely a plausible one from everything we know so far. For me, I do feel like Mr. Grizz's vibe is a little bit too rough to be the kindly professor who wanted to protect his sweet cat. But I could 100% see there being a connection of some kind. Lunar Life suggests Mr. Grizz is potentially made by the professor and wants to use the golden eggs to turn back time. I love this idea of trying to turn back time, and it really works with my mammalian master race theory. We know the human race basically destroyed itself in a nuclear war, and we've all seen enough anime to know the only solution is to turn back time. I don't think we necessarily would see any time travel in the game, but I think it's a great plot for a villain, and I think Splatoon's crazy future tech has the potential to pull it off. Simpleton says maybe Salmonids take over Inkopolis, which would be pretty awesome. And maybe Mr. Grizz is taking the golden eggs to hatch and raise them himself. I could definitely see the golden eggs as acting as an embryo to grow his salmonling workforce. Yes, salmonlings are happening, but I also still think they are going to be used as a power source in some way for the rest of his shady plans. Here's another idea on the Grizz, Professor, Tartar Holy Trinity. Grizz is the professor and uses Tartar's sanitized ink from the Octo expansion to create sanitized Salmonids. Sanitized Salmonids are such a cool idea, I couldn't not draw these. And I would definitely be happy to see a return of sanitized enemies. There's so much potential for amazing designs. This person is also thinking that a human is running Grizzco, and points out the scooter shop we see in the trailer could also be used for some kind of anti-Grizzco mode. That is such a fun idea. It's something I never would have thought of. Rather than just bringing back Salmon Run, we could have a whole new mode where we rescue the golden eggs back from Grizzco. I love it. Mr. Grizz is a backup for Tartar. I genuinely hadn't thought about a Grizz-Tartar connection before I read all of your comments, but now that I think about it, I think you guys might be convincing me. So Tartar and Grizz seem to have pretty different personalities to me, so I don't think they're the same, but maybe Tartar's brainwashing ink is infecting the real Mr. Grizz, and that's why he's become fixated on world domination. Either way, he did done evil. Mep thinks Mr. Grizz is in fact working with DJ Octavio. We know the Octolings trade with the Salmonids for their regular eggs, but they weren't willing to give up their valuable golden eggs. So, Octavio gives them tech weak enough so that Grizzco workers can easily defeat them and gather up all the golden eggs for DJ Octavio. It all makes sense. Little Buddy figured it out, and we're helping them blow the whistle. The only question now is, what does Octavio want the eggs for? Mep also suggests that Octavio isn't actually an Octarian, but a different species who doesn't care about the Inkling Octoling peace treaty. It's a really interesting one. Personally, I think it's been pretty much confirmed that Octavio is a full Octoling, and that he was back in the war with Captain Cuttlefish. The boss Octarian tentacles do seem to come directly from Octavio, although I have always wondered where all the little Octotrooper tentacles come from. Does he just grow them all back? There's definitely a lot of unanswered questions on the Octarians in general, for sure. Here's another long one. The sea levels have been dropping, causing Salmonids to head back into the ocean. The Splatlands we've seen in the trailer turn out to be drained Salmonid territory, and the Salmonids are furious. You head deeper into never-before-seen Salmonid territory, and you peacefully take out their bases with the help of Little Buddy. Similar to my idea in the first video, you fight new Salmonid bosses until Mr. Grizz kidnaps Little Buddy. The Squidbeak platoon reveals Grizzco's plans for world domination, they rescue you, and ultimately you defeat Mr. Grizz and rescue Little Buddy. Your friendship with Little Buddy is then proof to the rest of the world that the Salmonids and the Inklings can be friends, and we see a return to the Deep Sea Metro to go back to the locations in the first two games. A really nice take on my video. I would love to see more of the Salmonids' land and culture outside of the tiny stages we see for Salmon Run. A few people have also mentioned the idea of tides changing, which I think is really interesting given we see the man-made, or Grizz-made, dams surrounding most of the Salmon Run stages. Maybe Mr. Grizz has been intentionally flooding and draining certain areas to claim back land or manipulate the Salmonids in some ways. Strawberry Milk suggests the SOS image we've seen is a clue on what to expect in Splatoon 3. The current drought has made Mr. Grizz desperate to capture the last Salmonids, which is why Little Buddy is on the run. They also suggest sanitized Salmonids, who we fight along with other new boss Salmonids using Grizzco weapons similar to the ideas in my video. I really like the idea of getting to use replica Grizzco weapons that you can use in the online matches, similar to the replica hero weapons from the current games. They also have a fun idea that after we defeat Mr. Grizz, he sets up a new shop in the plaza selling new kinds of items. Imagine if we had apartments, which I talk about in my very first Splatoon video. I could see him selling strange decorations and trinkets from the ocean. Although, I'm not sure I'd trust him to suddenly be a reformed member of society. this is the true MVP. Mr. Grizz is just a big bear. Yes. Someone else suggests maybe he was the professor's pet bear, similar to Judd. I mean, who knows what kind of crazy pets people have in the last days of humanity. It doesn't feel super likely to me, but who knows? That's the fun, right? Someone who is more clued up than me on the Splatoon manga has pointed out that one of the characters is shown carving the Mr. Grizz statue. I haven't read the manga, but I'm generally a bit skeptical of how much those kind of spin-off mangas are actually canon to the games, especially when it comes to specific characters. I could definitely imagine that maybe the character canonically carved the Grizzco statue, and that maybe it was bought or found or used by Grizzco. But my guess is I don't think Mr. Grizz will be an Inkling or a human. That's just my gut feeling though. Mr. Grizz is a cannibal salmonid. You know what? The more I think about it, the more this makes sense to me. Especially with the idea that maybe they were infected by Tartar's ink somehow. I don't think Mr. Grizz is eating the golden eggs like an actual bear, but a salmon who becomes disgusted with all sea-dwelling life and wants to bring back the glory of mammals? It just might work. And heck, maybe he's a cannibal too. I love it. Here's an interesting one. No Troy points out that Sardinium have been a main collectible in the single player mode, and that maybe they hold some kind of power, similar to golden eggs. I do think this one's unlikely, but that salmon in Mr. Grizz's mouth does look a lot like a Sardinium. I do think it would be super cool if that was secretly powering the Grizzco radio, just as a little Easter egg. Here's another theory about helping the Squidbeak platoon, but instead of salmonlings, we have Salmonids helping us out in special versions of each mode. This makes me think about a new mode where we could collaboratively play with AI Salmonids on our team. There's definitely a lot of potential there, although I will fight anyone who says no salmonlings in Splatoon 3. It is happening. Ghosts Blocks has a similar idea, with a new mode based again around the Nil statue. Only this time you're not fighting Salmonids at all, but instead we're back to fighting sanitized Octolings. I definitely love new modes, but we've got to have Salmonids somewhere, right? I don't think we've been shown Little Buddy this early if they weren't going to be a huge part of the game, right? Surely. Someone has mentioned the amazing work of Alexis Pflaum's Project Splatoon 3, which a lot of you have probably seen already floating around the internet. I'll put a link in the description of their Twitter thread with all of their work. They've made a lot of really polished concept art, and I definitely recommend checking it out. Mako Missions is an idea for a new mode similar to Salmon Run, where you battle shark-based enemies alongside Salmonids. The designs are amazing. I do think we're more likely to see an expansion of Salmonid-based life forms than we are a whole new race, just in terms of conservation of design, but either way, I absolutely love it. And in all fairness, I'm sure Nintendo could pull it off if they wanted to. We also have a lot of theories about Pearl's crazy rich parents, and the results of the Order Chaos final Splatfest. Bakupoo thinks Mr. Grizz is in fact Pearl's dad. This is a really interesting one for me. I hadn't thought about Pearl's dad as a character at all, but he's really caught the imagination of a lot of people. Honestly though, I'm not convinced. I would hope that Pearl knows her dad well enough to be able to recognise him shouting instructions over a radio, and I don't really think there's any connection there other than the fact he's rich. I would have thought if Nintendo was planning to set this up, we'd maybe have a couple more clues here and there, but maybe I've missed something. Let me know. Plenty of people also think the final Splatfest will have caused Pearl and Marina to go to war. Griffleap suggests that maybe the new desert region is part of Pearl's new chaos regime. Some people are speculating that maybe we'll get to take part in the war, or see it in action, maybe even get to choose a side. Pastor Kazoo thinks the story mode will revolve around forming a resistance squad with Marina against Pearl's chaos regime. Dane Montgomery, on the other hand, suggests the opposite, and that Marina might have started her own Empire of Order in retaliation. We side with Pearl to fight against her, and in the end, Pearl and Marina end up becoming friends again, which I agree is a nice little emotional arc for the characters. However, I think we can all agree that Ada Max here is correct. What if Marina just comes in with a giant squeegee? A herd of squeegees? Yes, 1000%. They also want to see a return of the Squidbeak platoon agents, and they can all fight together. Alternatively, another excellent suggestion, Sea Cucumber Army. I am absolutely here for it. I want to fight a giant sea cucumber boss. Lots of people are also keen to see a role for the other existing characters, like the Squid Sisters, or even an expanded story based around Captain Cuttlefish. Someone makes the excellent point here that out of all the agent characters, Agent 4 from Splatoon 2 hasn't had that much love generally. Maybe they've turned against us and sided with Grizzco. MJ Project agrees and mentions that Agent 3 from Splatoon 1 is apparently now a DJ according to the Haikara Walker art book. I've actually got that in the post right now, so that is something to look forward to. Panda Crusader wants to see all the agents return in a blaze of glory. Similar to in my video, Mr. Grizz will send out waves of enemies to fight before you finally have to face the man himself. I'm just saying guys, giant mecha Grizz. Personally, I'm not that interested in the agent characters, or at least not the player characters. I do think if they were coming back to the story though, it would be really fun to bring them back as your actual enemy. Like, not just brainwashed, they're just straight up not on your side. I love the idea that they're going and living a life outside of being your player character, and they've got their own opinions and stuff. Oz Sarusi makes a really good suggestion I've not seen before. Mind-controlled Inklings. I do love the sanitization concept. There is definitely fun to be had here. Here's someone building on my idea from my original plot theory video. I suggested after you beat Mr. Grizz as the final boss in the story mode, Grizzco becomes owned by the Salmonids instead. Waffa suggests that instead of killing them now, they've got little ink tanks and respawn points. I love this so much. I also had to draw some little water wings on the chums and just make it really, really nice. I picture their respawn as being like a floating buoy out in the ocean, and maybe it moves around through the run. I think a lot of people are also hoping to see a return of the Deep Sea Metro format, especially with the train that we've seen in the trailer. It's a really interesting one. In my gut, I don't feel like it's super likely to return just because it was so unusual, and I just feel like it's really closely tied to Inkopolis, but where there's a will, there's a way. And maybe we'll see something a bit similar, but in a new format. A few people have also mentioned that they're not a fan of salmonlings in general, which is fair. I do think they're wrong, but hey, you know, someone's got to be on the losing side of history. I've seen some people suggest that maybe they would come as DLC later down the line, similar to Octo Expansion, or that we won't see any new species in Splatoon 3. I think Nintendo's going to want to have a big feature to promote out the gate, because Splatoon 3 is going to have to pull a lot of players over from Splatoon 2. Plus, there's no new console launch to help it along. Splatoon 1 and 2 were already pretty similar, especially at launch. although it did have Salmon Run as its big killer app. Salmonlings are a big new feature, and they have a big impact on the lore, so even a hint of a salmonling in a trailer is going to get everyone all excited about what it means for the story in the game. They're going to have to buy it. So we can all agree salmonlings are happening. Finally, we've just got a nice, honest wish. Just to be able to play as sharks. I respect that. I did think about drawing a shark character, but honestly, I can't do better than this guy from the Bottom Feeders band. To everyone whose comments didn't make it in, I genuinely apologise. I've seen so many great ideas come in just in the last few days. I thought this was going to be a really quick video to make, but it turns out it was not. I've also got some other really exciting videos in the works, so stay tuned for those. Again, if you haven't seen my Splatoon 3 plot ideas video, definitely go check that one out, and my video on features I'd like to see in Splatoon 3. As always, I'm so keen to hear all your thoughts and ideas, and you'd also be doing me a huge personal favour by officially liking the video and generally giving the algorithm some love. I'm still a pretty tiny channel right now, so any and all love from you guys watching makes a huge difference to whether or not YouTube even shows my video to other people. If I can get my channel up to that 1,000 subscriber mark, I might even be eligible to make like £2 from YouTube AdSense. What a dream! Sending out good vibes to everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Stay fresh. Bye.